John, some of your framework going into the draft this year and the combine is based upon what happened last year. So when you look back at last season, what stands out to you?
A lot of things, but I think, when you look back at the season, you're always evaluating, for us especially, like, did we do enough to help the coaching staff? And so I think that's our approach this year too, right? Like, what can we do, on a daily basis? This is just one of the avenues for acquisition. But what are we doing on a daily basis to help out our coaching staff? And that's probably what stands out the most. Excuse me, the most. Obviously, we were proud to get back to the divisional round, but we want to be winning world championships. So how do we do that? And that's been the focus of our off season, looking back at our season, studying the season, and then also in our draft meetings we just ended last week.
When you saw what you saw last year and what you currently have now and your plans going forward, how close is this team to a Super Bowl championship or a Super Bowl contending team?
Well, I'm really bad at that, by the way. Okay. But my brother used to ask me that all the time too. Like, so what do you think your record's going to be? I have no idea. No, our approach is that it's every position, one day at a time, and how are we going to focus on? Obviously, we feel like we have specific needs. Not going to get into that publicly, and we need to be able to address those needs. But you also have to be patient and careful about how you acquire players and not just acquire players to check boxes.
This time every year you have your plan A, then plan B, C, D, and so on, based on what exactly happens going forward. How did the overall product you had last year compare to what you had on paper at the combine this time last year?
Wow. Man, great question. I think they did a good job. We went into the draft with 4 picks, right? So just be able to get more guys to add more depth. All those guys. Sure, we would have liked to see them play a little bit more as frontline players, but they were all real good depth players and provided great competition, and they were all really good special teams players as well.
When we spoke last year, you had just 4 draft picks.
Yeah.
What's your overall feeling this year, having more draft stock and also a little bit more salary cap space this time?
Yeah. The salary cap space is cool. Gives us more flexibility. Trying to figure out how to do things the right way, right, and not just take up cap room, but or to use your cap room, but to try to focus on the right type of player, the right guy that's going to fit in each position room, right, in their building. And you'd be surprised, like with your budgeted items and all that, how fast that cap space goes as well. I keep hearing like, oh man, you guys get to go hog wild in free agency this year. Kind of like, we got a plan for next year, the year after that too. So you gotta be real careful you don't get yourself in trouble. And Matt Thomas has obviously helped us do a great job in that regard and help us stay disciplined in what we're doing and in our approach. And then in regards to the draft, you never know really truly until you have the final picture of what it looks like and the board I'm talking about. And so we'll see once we get there what it looks like, and we'll just try to figure out how to acquire as many of those players that we really like as possible.
Speaking of a potential big chunk of that salary cap space,
yeah.
Jadeveon Clowney, how big of a priority is he for you guys this offseason?
He's a big priority. Jaron Reed, darn good player as well. One of ours, we'd like to get Jaron back. Let's get all those guys back. Quentin Jefferson. We got a whole slew of guys. But in that D-line room, we traded for Jadeveon. Part of our deal with them was we weren't going to franchise him. I think he liked his experience. Our staff knows him. Our trainers, our sports science people know how to take care of him. We're strength conditioning guys. I think he had a great experience. And it's just going to be a process, right? With his agent and going, especially down here at the combine, going through, trying to figure out where his market lies.
The numbers aren't necessarily there, but you saw how disruptive he was on the field when he was healthy out there. Is that enough to warrant the kind of payday he's looking for?
Well, how do we know what he's looking for?
Well, he said he wants to set the market.
Oh, okay. Well, no. No, he's an extremely disruptive player, so I think everybody would say they would want to set the market, right? So I know you do, right? So, but no,
you hiring?
He's a heck of a player. We were lucky to acquire him, and we're appreciative of Bill O'Brien working with us, getting through that with us.
With Jaron Reed's shortened season last year, does that make it tougher to evaluate what he would make on the open market if he goes into free agency compared to, what
a little bit? Yeah, a little bit. There's a little bit of tale of two seasons there, a little. We had more sack. Obviously, had much more sack production last year, but we know what kind of person he is, and that's really what obviously, he's a darn good football player, but the type of player or the type of person he is in our locker room is really what is what we're attracted to as well.
We've seen that you don't just replicate a Hall of Fame secondary like the one you had a few years back in the Legion of Boom. But how do you feel about what you have there right now and their progress going forward?
I think it's a good group. Those guys did a nice job. We got banged up there a little bit. Diggsy really helped us out. McDougal was banged up for a little while. Tedrick got hurt. We got off balance there a little bit. Leno was a little bit late getting back at safety, so Trey, we look for Trey to improve next year, and so it's a good group. Like I told you before, I worry about every position group. Like it's not one or the other. You're asking me specifically about the secondary, and I feel like we'll do whatever we can to help that group, and help our coaches as well.
Nice to be here and already have a new player to the mix. Greg Olsen.
Yeah.
Thoughts on bringing him in?
Yeah, he came in with his wife Kara. Russ was with him at the Super Bowl, and that was the weekend. Everything was going down with Carolina, and sure enough, he was let go. So we got him in as quickly as we could. He's just he's a pro. He's going to be a leader instantly on offense for us. I'm excited for Will Dissly. He was excited that we were able to acquire him, and I think it's just going to be fun for everybody. Guys, we're going to do whatever we can. I told him we're going to do whatever we can to put as many good players around you as possible.
Russ obviously likes that too. He was a little more outspoken this offseason about getting more offensive weapons. Were you surprised by that?
Publicly, but he's he's such a competitor. He's always been like that with me. Like, hey, what do you think about this guy? Think we'd have a chance with this guy? He's kind of like Pete in that regard, Like, hey, what about this guy, Johnny?
You're getting in both ears.
Yeah. He's just a competitor, right? So, obviously he wants great players around him, and he wants to have a really cool scheme around him and be able to accentuate his strengths, and that's all we can ask for.
Speaking of
if it wasn't like that, we'd be worried, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Speaking of weapons, Mel Kiper Jr. said that there's potential of 25 wide receivers going in the first 3 or 4 rounds in this draft.
Okay.
Is the talent that strong at the receiver position, or what's your evaluation of it?
The last several years it has been.
Yeah.
It just seems like there's, everybody's running the spread, right? And there's always guys like, you just look at LSU, right? You look at the talent on that football team, right? And, especially the receiver position, right? Look at Alabama. There's always been, especially the last several years, you wish there were, as many left tackles as there are receivers, right? It's just the offensive linemen are harder to come by, and it seems like, every year the numbers are very strong this year. I would say that, yes.
When you look at the last few drafts and the way they've been able to shape this team where it is right now, what are you most proud about, and what keeps you up at night?
Shoot, I don't go down the proud route enough, man. I pretty much just stay. I'm constantly thinking about what we can do to get better. So I don't, the way we look back is reflecting on how we get better, not necessarily on, what we've achieved or whatever. I think that we have to keep looking forward and trying to figure out what's next and how do we improve in every area. And that's not just on the football field, right? It's in video and equipment and our training room and strength conditioning and sports, everything, right? All football operations, and that's what drives us, and that's where we're always going to keep pushing, like for no finish line, right? So, but I think this past season, I think the thing I was most proud about was that, just that we were counted out, and we hung in there, and our coaches did a great job, and we were about that close to winning the NFC West, So it's pretty cool that everything Pete preaches and everything that we talk about philosophically came to fruition, almost, right? So we just have to keep building off of that.
2 more questions. First, you just had your pre-combine meeting with all your staff.
Yeah.
Seemed fired up about that. Does that kind of reinvigorate you at the start of the season every single year?
Yeah, the start of the off season, yeah, because we get done and we jump right into the we got done this year, jump right into the going down to the Senior Bowl, And so you have this picture, you know, of all these players in your head, right? But once you finally get in the meetings and you put it up on the board and you can see it, and you have all these questions about everybody and how it's going to adjust throughout the next several months, it's just it's a long process. It's a little old school the way we do it in terms of man hours, but you know, once we get through it, I think the staff's real excited and everybody has a really good feeling for what we're looking for and what questions we need to get answered on specific individuals throughout the process.
And last question, how close an eye are you keeping on the XFL right now? What are your thoughts over the first few weeks of that?
Yeah, it's been cool. Yeah. You know, we had the games on in our meetings, so I can't say I've sat down and studied it yet.
Yeah.
Probably won't for a little while yet, but Nolan Teasley and DJ Horde, John Schneider, those guys they're focused on that, keeping track of you know, what that landscape's going to look like, which would be, you know, real close to the draft.
Thanks a lot, John. Really
Awesome.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.